lot of hell up to now. We've been through a lot of agony, and we are suffering for our children. Nobody will do the things that we have been doing. Whatever the Home Office wanted, we did it.
This woman is fighting a desperate campaign. 4 or 5 times a week she tells her life story to total strangers. She's spoken like this at almost 400 public meetings. It's part of a battle to convince the Home Office that she's the mother of 3 children on the other side of the world, so that they can join her here in Britain. The Home Office doesn't believe her.
I'd like to ask you, how would you prove that you are the parents of your children? What would you do to prove that I haven't done? You tell me I will do that to prove that I'm the mother of those 3 children.
Rochdale, Lancashire. Anwar Ditta lives here with her husband and 4-year-old daughter. That daughter was born here, but Anwar says she has 3 other children in Pakistan. She claims to have done everything she can to convince the Home Office that she is their mother. The Home Office says there's no proof. Because Anwar was born in Britain, she has the right to live and work here. She sews pillowcases for the National Health Service. But the other 3 children she claims as hers were born in Pakistan. Under immigration rules, Anwar Ditta can't bring them here unless she proves her claim. These are my children. "4,000 miles away in Lahore, the children Anwar Ditta claims she left behind 6 years ago when she returned to Britain to find a new home with her husband. Saima and her brothers, Kamran and Imran, live in Lahore with their grandmother and 2 aunts. Anwar Ditta says she's not seen them for 6 years.
And I didn't know that it's going to take me that long to get my children here. It was only for 3 or 4 months that I left them for. And since then, hopes have been shattered because the legal channels, all the legal doors are closed. And that I've got no other choice except to keep on fighting.
I was born in Birmingham, 28/11/1953. I was brought up in Rochdale. My parents separated in 1962. The custody was given to the father. My father sent me and my sister to Pakistan. I was married there in 1968 and I had 3 children there. 1970, 1972 and 1973. I returned back to England in 1975 so I can buy a house, find a job and then apply for my children and have my children here. And since then...
Anwar's story has been rejected by the Home Office 4 times in 4 years. Her solicitor, Ruth Bundy.
In fact, in this particular case and in many immigration cases, Anwar is treated worse than somebody, for example, accused of murder, in that she is not even given the benefit of any doubt. She is not here being asked to prove her case on the balance of probabilities, which is the normal civil procedure in these sorts of cases. She is being asked to remove all shadow and vestige of doubt at all about what has happened.
Immigration from Pakistan is tightly controlled. It's usually restricted to dependents of people already here. They must prove their claim and start with an interview at the British Embassy. Immigration procedures have been criticised by a former Home Office Minister, Leighton. He told us how the embassy official decides.
Well, partly by hunch, partly by a series of questions which have been manufactured over the years to establish relationships. And in the end, although he would deny it, he is applying a very strict sense of the balance of proof.
The balance of proof weighed against Anwar Ditta and her husband Shuja Ud Din. Their relatives were interviewed in Pakistan in 1978 and the couple were questioned by immigration officials in Britain. The Home Office suspected they were trying to bring in the children of Shuja's sister Jamila.
I sent a letter to my sister-in-law asking to send her 6 birth certificates of her children, and then I asked for a photograph of 9 children, and that's what we sent to the Home Office.
But the Home Office found discrepancies in the couple's evidence. In 1968, without their family's approval, Anwar and Shuja had married in Lahore. Because Anwar was underage, they practiced a deception common in Pakistan. They said she was older. Anwar Ditta, 14 years old, said she was 20.
That's not a crime. I told that to the Home Office myself. I gave the reasons why I got married at that age. I told the Home Office everything that we told to the Home Office. We haven't hidden anything. For God's sake, people do tell lies in their life. People do mistakes in their lives. That doesn't mean they're criminals. That doesn't mean they're not my children. If I've done a...
The couple say Anwar followed Shuja to Britain in 1975. They married again in Rochdale because they feared their Pakistani marriage wouldn't be recognised. In the certificate of the English marriage in November 1975, the Home Office found another discrepancy. The couple were described as bachelor and spinster.
Because I left school at the age of 9 and I didn't understand the meaning. When I found out that it's wrong, and I went down back to the registration officer, and he said, even if he would have told us, it would still have put spinster and bachelor down, because we don't recognise your Pakistani marriage.
Home Office suspicions were increased because Shuja had broken immigration rules. As Anwar's husband, he was entitled to come to Britain, but he entered as a visitor and overstayed.
We told the Home Office that he overstayed. We told the Home Office every detail. But it doesn't still matter. You know, Shuja could have come or stayed because he was married to me. You know, he was still married to a British-born.
The discrepancies in Anwar Ditta's story led the Home Office to decide she was lying. In May 1979, the application was refused. The Home Office said,
"No documents or evidence to show positively that she bore 3 children in Pakistan had been produced."
Anwar's solicitor, Ruth Bundy, believes the couple had proved their case.
Anwar Ditta and Shuja Ud Din have always been completely consistent in their accounts of the births of the 3 children in describing when the births took place and which midwife was present. They have produced birth certificates which show those details, the midwife details and so on, accurately, which state the father's name, and it is a fact of life in Pakistan that birth certificates do not show the name of the mother of the child. However, she has produced evidence also that she married Shuja Ud Din, and that should be enough for anybody to put the 2 sets of facts together.
Anwar Ditta could prove her childhood in Britain, that she stayed here until she was 9 years old. She couldn't prove how she travelled to Pakistan or how she returned home to Britain. The Home Office said,
"No evidence of Anwar Sultana Ditta ever having been in Pakistan had been produced."
Solicitor Ruth Bundy argues that there was plenty of evidence.
I have never seen a case where from the outset there has been such a quantity of documentary evidence and of quite such quality. There is evidence in documentary form from when Anwar was in England. From the time she went to Pakistan, she has produced all the certificates, endless photographs of herself and her young children and her husband. I don't think that she could do anything further in the way of producing evidence.
But the Home Office suggested
There might be 2 Anwar Sultana Dittas, one who married Shuja Ud Din in Pakistan in 1968, the other whom Shuja Ud Din married in the United Kingdom in 1975.
A year later, the couple's appeal was dismissed. Former Home Office Minister Leighton believes that by the time an appeal is heard, the Home Office is often inflexible.
Almost inevitably, they are seeking to justify the decision of the entry certificate officer. And again, it's very difficult to show that the decision was wrong unless you can produce some quite startling new evidence which affects the view of the Home Office. There are many cases where people have produced new evidence and the Home Office has resisted because they are defending an entrenched position.
Anwar Ditta was refused a final appeal, but she continues her campaign, lobbying MPs, organising petitions and speaking at public meetings.
I'm going through a lot of strain. Why? Because my child that was born here, she puts a lot of questions to me. She's going to be 5 and 6 of April. She says, why can't my brothers and sisters be here? Why can't they sleep with me? Why can't we go out together? Mummy, why don't they come here? She asked me when I go on meetings, Mummy, are we going to get our brothers and sisters? And I said, hopefully, yes. But I'm not giving up my hope. Because the Home Office can't prove that I'm telling lies.
When my wife goes for the speaking and start to cry, when I see the tear in her eyes, you see, and ask the help to the people, you know, that is the very depressed position for me.
People have got to recognise that the man or the woman who is here asking for their families to come is a citizen here, born here sometimes, but frequently a person who's lived here for a very considerable time, and who is a taxpayer, who contributes by working in this society, and they have rights too. The only reason why we don't kick up a bigger fuss about it is because they're black.
More new evidence, including 6 years of letters to Anwar and Shuja from the family in Pakistan, went to Home Office Minister Timothy Raisin in December. Mr. Raisin declined to take part in this programme, but he was not convinced by the evidence he was given, and he concluded,
I am not persuaded that our earlier view of the case should be abandoned.
Mr. Raisin added,
It is not appropriate for me to take a different view without substantial new evidence.
Was Anwar Ditta a fraud? We went to Pakistan to investigate her story. We searched for evidence in Jhelum, Islamabad, Karachi and Lahore. In the city's Bakari quarter, the children Anwar and Shuja claim are theirs. Saima, the little girl, is 8. Her brothers Imran and Kamran are 9 and 11. They're dressed in clothes sent from Rochdale, and they're supported on the 60 or 70 pounds Shuja Ud Din sends to his mother each month. Some of that money is spent on the children's school fees. School records show Shuja Ud Din to be the children's father, but in Pakistan the mother's name is never recorded, and only Anwar can claim an automatic right to bring them to Britain. There was no evidence here to support Anwar's claim that she'd ever been to Pakistan. She says her father sent her in 1963 when she was 9 years old, with her older cousin Saida. In Karachi we found Saida Ijaz and told her the Home Office didn't believe Anwar had ever made the journey.
No, that is very nonsense, because Anwar Ditta was here in Pakistan and she accompanied me in 1963 in the end of February, and we from Newcastle we flew to London, and the flight was delayed for 1 day and because of the fog, and we stayed a night in a hotel, and then we fly back to Pakistan. And we stayed a night at Lahore. Then from Lahore we continued our journey to Jhelum.
Do you remember anything about that journey to Jhelum?
Yes, one thing I remember, that while I was coming from Lahore to Jhelum, I lost my purse there.
How long did you stay with Anwar in Jhelum?
About 5 or 6 months. We stayed together in the same place, same house, and same town.
I didn't like the way that I stayed there or lived there, and I wanted to come back to my own country. Living in Pakistan, it's totally different ways. And you know, I didn't like it, because even if I'm black, I am British, and I was brought up a British way.
This official Pakistani identity card carries Anwar Ditta's signature and a thumbprint identified as hers by a fingerprint expert. She holds it at home in Rochdale. It's supposed to have been issued from this registration office we located in Lahore. If the identity card is genuine, it proves 2 things: that Anwar Sultana Ditta did live in Pakistan, and that she's the same woman who is now in Rochdale. The Home Office, which disputes both of those claims, was given the card last year, but has yet to accept it as genuine. From the serial number on the card, the registrar turned up an application form completed in December 1973.
What can you tell us from examining that form?
This application was submitted in 20th December 1973. The applicant's name is Anwar Sultana, and her father name is Allan Ditta. Her husband name is Shuja Ud Din, and she was born in November 1953, duly signed by her. It is attested by the postman of that region.
An identity card issued from that form would be genuine?
Yes, of course it is genuine. Only that application is entertained which is genuine. We have removed the thumb impression from here and pasted on the identification card under sign. From here we have removed the signature of Anwar Sultana.
Has that also been placed on the
card?
card?
Also placed on the identification card.
A signature remains on the application form in the office in Lahore. It matches the signature on the identity card Anwar Ditta has in Rochdale. The card shows Anwar Ditta lived in Pakistan. The application form, completed in 1973 and independently witnessed, names Shuja Ud Din as Anwar Ditta's husband. But the Home Office doesn't accept that the two were ever married in Pakistan. In a mosque at Railway Powerhouse on the north side of Lahore, we traced the Muslim priest named in documents given to the Home Office as having conducted the ceremony. Could the Imam, Zahur Hussain Quadri, prove that Anwar and Shuja married in Lahore in 1968? He took us to the local Union Council office, where births, marriages and deaths are registered. Here, an official found the original marriage certificate.
The bride's name was Anwar Sultana and her father's name was Allan Ditta. She lived in Lahore. The bridegroom was Shuja Ud Din and he also lived in Lahore. That is my signature. I performed the ceremony.
There seemed no doubt that Anwar and Shuja did marry in Lahore in 1968. They claim that after their wedding they moved to Jhelum, a small town 70 miles from Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. They say they lived there for 5 years and that there Anwar gave birth to the 2 boys. The births are remembered by Shuja's aunt, Maruf Jan.
I saw Kamran being born. I remember the labor lasted most of the day. Anwar was in terrible pain. When Imran was born, Shuja fetched me about 10 minutes before the birth. I saw Anwar and Imran just after he was born.
Imran was born in 1972. The same year, an official on the Pakistan Railway was posted to Jhelum and shared a house with Anwar, Shuja and the 2 children. Kabir Hassan isn't related to the couple and only met them when he moved in.
I went to the house where they were already living in one portion. There were Anwar Sultana, her husband, Shuja Ud Din and 2 children, Imran and Kamran.
Anwar Ditta has given the Home Office a photograph as evidence. Kabir Hassan has a copy and believes it proves her claims.
In this photograph, there are my 3 daughters, 1, 2 and 3, and she is Anwar Sultana, and here are 2 kids, Kamran and Imran. It was taken at Jhelum in Pakistan.
Have your daughters ever been out of Pakistan?
Never at all. They never went to any country or even from Jhelum.
The Home Office, though, do suggest that Anwar Sultana Ditta has never been to Pakistan.
I am strange how Home Office say that she had never been to Pakistan. She had been to Pakistan and lived here for many years.
Anwar and Shuja claim that by 1972 they'd moved back to Lahore, and Saima's birth certificate shows that she was born there in 1973, delivered by this local midwife, Hashmat Bibi, who registered the birth. The certificate also shows that Saima was born in this house, the home of Shuja's mother. Hashmat says she saw Anwar twice before she was called to attend her in labour.
Saima was born in this room. I was called to the house about 9 in the evening and delivered the baby around midnight. About a year after Saima was born, Anwar left this house. I was told she had gone to England. I still came to see Saima. I have seen her growing up and I'm absolutely sure she's Anwar's daughter. I delivered her with my own hands.
Anwar Ditta claims she came back to England in 1975 with her mother, travelling as a named child on her mother's passport. The Home Office don't believe her.
I did travel on my mother's passport. And that's true. If I would have come any other way, I would just tell the Home Office clearly that I've come this way or that way. That's the truth. That's how I travelled with my mother.
But there was evidence in Lahore. Shuja's mother has a telegram sent from Barking, Essex, in April 1975, on the day Anwar says she travelled. It reads, Anwar reached OK, and was date-stamped on arrival in Lahore. Mushtaq Begum has cared for the children for nearly 6 years, but she says she can no longer manage.
I'm old now and cannot look after them as I used to. My daughter has been engaged for the last 2 years and she will soon be married. I cannot look after these children on my own.
My children can't tell what they feel about their parents. They just show that they're happy. I know how it is because I hadn't had any parents at my childhood. I don't know what the love is of a mother. I feel about my children. I don't want them to think the same thing. No, I don't care for them. And I want them with me.
Islamabad International Airport. In Pakistan, we'd found a total of 14 witnesses who testified that Anwar Ditta had lived there, married, and had 3 children, Imran, Kamran, and Saima. We flew 5 principal witnesses to Islamabad to swear their testimony before the Vice-Consul at the British Embassy. But witnesses could always be lying. Only independent scientific evidence could finally show whether Anwar Ditta was telling the truth. We flew Dr. John Sachs, a specialist from the London hospital, to Pakistan to collect blood samples as the critical final test. The British Embassy, Islamabad. While Dr. Sachs prepared to take blood samples, the 5 witnesses from Karachi, Lahore and Jhelum came here to swear on oath before the British Vice-Consul. In sworn affidavits, they testified to the 13 years Anwar Ditta spent in Pakistan. Maruf Jan confirmed that she knew Anwar and Shuja in Jhelum and described Anwar giving birth to Kamran and Imran. Hashmat Bibi, the midwife who delivered Saima, testified that the mother of the baby was Anwar Ditta. Saida Ijaz, the cousin who travelled with Anwar from Britain to Pakistan, described their journey. Zahur Hussain Quadri, the imam from Lahore, confirmed that he married Anwar Ditta and Shuja Ud Din in 1968. And Mushtaq Begum swore that Anwar gave birth to Saima when the couple lived with her in Lahore. She explained how she's cared for the children for nearly 6 years, financially supported by Shuja and Anwar in England. Vice-Consul Mr. Michael Bartram countersigned each affidavit after administering the oath. In a hotel room in Islamabad, Dr. Sachs begins the first stage of the medical investigation, preparing to take blood samples from 5 people.
Now watch it. Watch this. Watch it.
He took blood from all 3 children. Ghulam Muhammad, Shuja's brother-in-law, also gave blood. As the Home Office suspected that Anwar and Shuja were trying to bring the children of Ghulam and Jamila to Britain, her blood was also tested. 2 hours after taking the samples, Dr. Sachs was back at the airport boarding a flight for London to test the blood alongside samples taken from Anwar and Shuja. At the London hospital, 13 different tests were carried out for Weldon action on each sample of blood. 12 on the red cells concentrate on blood groups. These tests would show conclusively if Anwar Ditta and Shuja Ud Din were not the parents of the 3 children. One test was on the white blood cells. They carry the family characteristics inherited from each parent. The thin, misty layer in the center of this tube could carry those decisive clues. By testing both red and white blood cells, the specialists hoped to be able to tell us how likely it was that Anwar and Shuja were the mother and father. Dr. Sachs liaised with Professor Barbara Dodd, who supervised the investigation. She's an accredited tester for the Home Office, appointed by the Home Secretary. A week later, Professor Dodd's results showed Ghulam and Jamila Mohammed couldn't be the parents.
It was found that they were not possible parents for the 3 children, simply because they couldn't provide the characters that we saw had to be contributed to the children from their true parents.
Even tests as sophisticated as these can't prove 100% that a couple are the parents of a particular child, but sometimes they can prove the case beyond reasonable doubt.
What do the results of your tests show about Anwar Sultana Ditta and her husband Shuja Ud Din?
Well, here the tests are perfectly consistent with them being the true parents of these children. And in fact, from the general population of Pakistan, we would only expect to find, at a conservative estimate, about 1 couple in 250 million who would do to be the parents of these children. So that really, I think, beyond reasonable doubt, these 2 are the true parents of these 3 children.
The children's entry, though, depends on Anwar Sultana Ditta being their mother. How accurately can you determine that she is the mother?
Well, in this case, there was a 99.98% certainty that she's the true mother of these children.
It was the clearest result the London hospital had ever seen. After that interview, Professor Dodd continued research and revised the result.
There's a 99.99% certainty that Anwar Ditta is the mother of Kamran, Saima and Imran.
Her conclusion:
Shuja Ud Din and Anwar Ditta are beyond reasonable doubt the true parents of Kamran, Saima and Imran.
Earlier today, the evidence from this programme was handed to the Home Office, and in Rochdale we told Anwar Ditta the results of the blood tests.
It's not a surprise to us, it'll be a surprise to the Home Office, because they are our kids. And we wouldn't have gone through all this if they weren't ours. And I hope the Home Office will allow them without further delay now. And it's not just a special case. There's many people who are in the same situation, but nobody's to hear their voice, what they are going through.
This afternoon, after studying our file, the Home Office said the Minister would reconsider Anwar Ditta's case.